The Poisoner's Kiss, a tense psychological thriller. Eliza Sinclair was the picture of success. As the owner of a thriving tech company, she lived in a grand, modern house on the outskirts of the city. Her home was surrounded by beautifully manicured gardens and had large windows that offered a stunning view of the skyline. Inside, her taste was impeccable. Elegant furniture, tasteful art, and the latest gadgets filled her home. Eliza drove a sleek luxury car, a symbol of her status and success. At social gatherings, she was always the center of attention. Her charm and poise made her popular among her many friends and business associates. Everyone admired her for her intelligence, her kindness, and her seemingly perfect life, but Eliza had a dark secret. Years ago, some men hurt her deeply. They treated her badly and caused her great pain. Eliza never forgot. She wanted revenge. To exact her revenge, Eliza Sinclair had devised a meticulous and sinister plan. She obtained a rare and highly dangerous toxin from an underground network of suppliers, known only to a select few. This toxin was not like any ordinary poison. It was a sophisticated chemical compound so refined that it left no trace in the victim's body. Its effects were slow, causing the victim to suffer from mysterious and severe symptoms that baffled doctors and medical experts. Eliza conducted extensive research to understand the precise dosage and administration methods. She learned how to use the toxin in small, undetectable amounts that would gradually disrupt the victim's health, leading to a painful and drawn-out demise. Each of her targets was carefully selected based on their past actions against her, men who had wronged her in ways that left deep emotional scars. Eliza's approach was methodical and cautious. She used her charm to gain access to their personal lives, often attending events and functions where she could discreetly administer the toxin. Whether it was in a drink, at a party, a meal at a business lunch, or even a small gift laced with poison, Eliza ensured that her actions were untraceable. She took care to choose methods that would make the deaths appear as natural or accidental as possible, avoiding any suspicion of foul play. Eliza knew what she was doing was wrong, but she didn't care. Each time she used the poison, she felt a little better. It was her way of making things right, but as she continued, she started to worry. She knew someone might find out her secret one day. Detective Sarah Lawson had recently returned to work after a personal tragedy that had left her reeling. Her return to the force was marked by a mix of determination and lingering sorrow. Sarah had been a highly respected detective before her absence, known for her sharp intellect, meticulous nature, and relentless pursuit of justice. Her colleagues admired her for her ability to connect seemingly unrelated details and solve the most complex cases. Upon her return, Sarah was immediately assigned a new and troubling case. The city was grappling with a series of unexplained deaths that had stumped both the medical examiners and law enforcement. The victims were all men, and while their deaths appeared to be unrelated at first, Sarah's experienced eye noticed a disturbing pattern. Each man had died under mysterious circumstances, sudden and severe illnesses that led to death within a short period. The symptoms were inconsistent and varied, ranging from acute organ failure to unexplained fevers and severe pain. The medical reports were puzzling. No obvious signs of trauma, no common diseases, and no clear cause of death. The autopsies conducted on the victims revealed nothing conclusive. Toxicology reports came back clean, and no unusual substances were found in their systems. Sarah started to look into the deaths. she found out that all the men had something in common. They had hurt someone badly before they died. Sarah thought this might be more than just a coincidence. One day, Sarah noticed something odd. The men had died one after another, but the doctors couldn't find any reason for their deaths. It was as if they had all just fallen ill suddenly. Sarah began to think that someone might be poisoning them. Sarah made a list of people who might be connected to the men who died. She looked at their pasts and found out that one name kept coming up: Eliza Sinclair. Eliza seemed like a perfect lady, but Sarah felt something was not right. Sarah decided to find out more about Eliza. She started to watch her closely. Eliza was always polite and friendly, but Sarah wanted to see if she could find any clues that would prove Eliza was involved. Eliza knew that Detective Sarah Lawson was watching her. She became more careful and tried to hide her secret. Eliza didn't want anyone to find out about the poison. Every time Eliza met with someone, she made sure nothing looked suspicious. She always acted polite and friendly, just like before. She was very careful with her food and drinks, making sure no one saw her preparing them. Eliza also started to keep her house very clean. She didn't want any clues left behind. She threw away old things and cleaned every corner of her home. To throw Sarah off her trail, Eliza did some tricky things. She planted fake clues to make Sarah think someone else might be the poisoner. She also spoke to friends and told them that she was worried about the recent deaths, hoping they would mention it to Sarah. Despite all her efforts, Eliza felt nervous. Every time Sarah came close, she worried she might slip up. But she had to stay calm and keep her secret safe. She knew that if Sarah found out, her plan for revenge would be over. Detective Sarah Lawson was getting closer to Eliza Sinclair. She decided to set a trap to catch her. Sarah thought if she could catch Eliza doing something wrong, she could prove that Eliza was the poisoner. Sarah learned that Eliza was going to have a big party. Many important people would be there. Sarah decided this would be the perfect time to catch Eliza. Sarah asked her team to help. They set up hidden cameras around the party location. Sarah also planned to watch Eliza very carefully during the event. Before the party, Sarah tried to find out what Eliza would be doing. She discovered that Eliza had a special room where she kept her important things. Sarah thought this room might have some clues. At the party, Sarah watched Eliza closely. She noticed Eliza was nervous, but tried to act normal. Sarah hoped that if Eliza did anything wrong, the cameras would capture it. Sarah was ready to catch Eliza in the act. She felt that this was her best chance to prove that Eliza was behind the mysterious deaths. Eliza knew Detective Sarah was setting a trap for her. She was worried, but decided to act quickly to protect herself. She needed to outsmart Sarah. Before the party, Eliza made a plan. She knew Sarah would be watching closely. To mislead Sarah, Eliza decided to use a decoy. She put fake clues in places where Sarah would find them. These clues were meant to make Sarah think someone else was the poisoner. Eliza also made sure to behave very carefully at the party. She acted friendly and calm, making sure not to do anything that could look suspicious. She was very careful with the food and drinks, avoiding any chance that someone might see her doing something wrong. In the special room where Sarah hoped to find clues, Eliza placed harmless items. She knew Sarah's team would be watching, so she made sure nothing important was left there. Eliza also talked to some of her friends at the party, making sure they saw her acting normally. She hoped this would make Sarah think she was just another guest. Eliza felt tense, but she was determined. She knew she had to be clever and careful to stay one step ahead of Sarah. Just when it seemed Eliza was safe, a new person arrived. His name was Victor Hawke. Victor was a private investigator. He was hired by one of the dead men's families to find the truth. Victor didn't like working with the police. He preferred to work alone. When he heard about the poisonings, he decided to investigate on his own. Victor quickly learned about Eliza Sinclair. He knew she was a suspect, but he had his own plan. He wanted to find the poisoner and get revenge for the families who had lost their loved ones. Victor started following Eliza. He watched her closely, looking for any mistakes. He also began to look at the clues Sarah had collected. Victor's arrival made things more complicated. Now, not only did Sarah have to catch Eliza, but Victor was also looking for her. Eliza had to deal with both of them at the same time. Victor was clever and resourceful. He found some new evidence that made things even more confusing. It seemed like the game was getting harder for everyone involved. The tension was high. Detective Sarah Lawson and Victor Hawke both had Eliza Sinclair in their sights. They were both determined to find the truth. One night, Sarah and Victor decided it was time to confront Eliza. They both arrived at her big house at the same time. Eliza was surprised to see both of them. Sarah stepped forward and said, "Eliza, we know you are hiding something. It's time to explain yourself." Victor added, "I found more evidence. I think you're the poisoner, but I want to hear it from you." Eliza felt trapped. She had to think quickly. She tried to act calm but was very nervous inside. She knew this was a critical moment. Sarah and Victor started asking Eliza questions. They each had their own theories about what happened. Eliza tried to answer their questions and keep her secret safe, but she was under great pressure. The room was tense. Eliza knew she couldn't keep up the act forever. She had to make a choice, admit the truth, or try to escape. The confrontation was intense, with each person trying to outsmart the other. Eliza's mind raced as she realized this was the moment that would decide everything. Eliza was trapped between Sarah and Victor. Both were determined to catch her, and she knew she couldn't escape. She had to make a hard choice. Sarah and Victor kept pressuring Eliza with questions. They wanted her to confess. But Eliza knew that would mean the end of her plan for revenge. Eliza looked at Sarah and Victor. She realized she could not win against both of them. She had to decide which one to focus on. Victor suddenly made a demand. "If you confess now, I won't turn you over to the police. I will give you a chance to run away." Eliza felt a heavy weight on her shoulders. If she confessed, she would be caught. But if she chose to run, she would leave her revenge unfinished. She had to decide quickly. Finally, Eliza made a choice. She decided to confess to Sarah, but only to Sarah. She hoped that by admitting her guilt to Sarah, she might get some mercy. "I did it," Eliza said quietly. "I poisoned the men who hurt me, but I did it because they made my life miserable." Sarah listened carefully. She could see the pain in Eliza's eyes, but before Sarah could respond, Victor spoke up. "You made your choice. Now you must face the consequences," Victor said firmly. Eliza knew there was no going back. She had to face the results of her actions. Her choice had sealed her fate. After Eliza confessed to Sarah, the situation was still not clear. Sarah knew Eliza was guilty, but she also understood that Eliza had suffered greatly. Victor was angry and wanted to see Eliza punished. He felt justice should be served, no matter what. Sarah, on the other hand, felt conflicted. She knew the law must be followed, but she also saw the pain behind Eliza's actions. As Sarah prepared to take Eliza to the police, Victor stopped her. "She should pay for what she did," he said. "We can't let her go free." Sarah looked at Eliza and then at Victor. "We must decide what is right," she said, "but it's not an easy choice." Eliza stood quietly, waiting for the decision. She was ready to face whatever came next, knowing she had made her choice and now had to deal with the consequences. Sarah and Victor continued to argue about what should happen. Their voices filled the room, but there was no clear answer. The future was uncertain. In the end, Sarah made a difficult decision. She decided to let the courts decide Eliza's fate, rather than taking immediate action. She felt this was the fairest way to handle the situation. As Sarah left with Eliza, Victor watched them go. He was not satisfied, but he knew there was nothing more he could do. The case was not finished, and the final outcome was still unknown. The story ended with many questions. Would Eliza get a fair trial? Would her past suffering be taken into account? The answers were not clear, and the uncertainty left everyone with a lingering sense of doubt.